2028 Democrats are scrubbing pronouns faster than Brian Stelter clears a Vegas buffet. Politico calls it the Great Unwokening. Maryland Governor Wes Moore vetoed a bill on reparations. Greasy Gavin called trans sports unfair. Mayor Pete ditched his pronouns. And Rahm says, stop talking about bathrooms.
Stop talking about bathrooms and locker rooms and start talking about the classroom. If one child's trying to figure out their pronoun, I accept that, but the rest of the class doesn't know what a pronoun is and can't even define it.
But the woke detox won't fix squat if Dems' only idea is still orange man bad.
71% of Democrats say their leaders are ineffective. You are in Democratic leadership. Why are they wrong?
So when you look at what's happening here, Trump is doing some really bad things to people, right? Independents, Republicans, or Democrats are basically saying the same thing. They're really scared of what's happening right now to their families, and they want to see leadership. So we cannot be the party of the status quo. That is for certain.
Harold, I'm sure you're tired of having to answer this question every time you're on the show, but it's because you never answer it. You see all these examples that we use out there: rejection of pronouns, rejection of reparations, rejection of men and women's sports. That's what these little kind of desperate examples are, but there is no through line that tells you what they are for. These are all like, yeah, we were already there, but what are you for? What are you for?
I think you nailed it.
Thank you.
I think it is important for Democrats to understand, and I think Rahm is getting at a lot of it with some of the things he's saying, but we've been talking about it on this show now, and Dana sometimes says the Democrats never listen to me. They're starting to look like they're listening a little bit. Wes Moore and others are starting to understand that, and Wes is a smart guy, starting to understand first, President Trump won because of the border and because of the economy. And wrapped into a lot of that was fears that people had about some of these cultural issues, including the issues that we talk about around this table, including rights given to little boys that want to be girls over little girls and the activities they do. The president's gotten 50% of the border thing right. He has locked down the border. The question now they're dealing with, and we're seeing it play out in an ugly and violent way, is the hierarchy of deportations. And I'm rooting for him to get that right. We need a good border security and immigration bill, and apparently there's some money in this big, beautiful bill to do some of that. But Democrats, if you're smart, we need an affordability agenda. Talk about the things that everyday working class people who put Mr. Trump over the line in 2016 and put him over the line in 2024. I would even argue Ronald Reagan, when he won, it were working class Democrats that put him over the line. So we have to have an agenda that addresses that. The more we're concerned with pronouns, as the bottom of the screen says, the more we're concerned with protecting the rights of people who are hardened criminals, the less likely it is we're going to find our way back to the majority in the House and the Senate, and certainly less likely we'll find our way back to the White House. But we look like we're on a better trajectory today than we were yesterday.
Kellyanne, Harold is talking about moving to the center, but how can they move to the center if Trump occupies it? Like, they need to be deprogrammed of their never Trumpism before they can actually accept any of this common sense.
Yes. The current Democratic Party is so left, they don't even see the center. And it'd be one thing if you changed your mind, if you had a true awakening on a public policy issue. It's not like these people, Greg, burned a bra or burned a flag at Woodstock when they were 19. They said this last year when they were governors and in their 50s and 60s. And this whole idea that they have changed their mind on something so significant, and I would say so obvious, no one's going to buy that. But you said the most important thing. I challenge Democrats all the time, elected and unelected Democrats, and even independents. Can you finish or start a sentence? If I ask you, who are you, what do you believe in? If you can finish and start a sentence without saying Donald Trump's name 10 times, you win a prize. I still have all the prizes. They're physiologically incapable of not saying Trump, Trump, Trump. This is why vaccines for diseases include part of what you're allergic to. In other words, you put it in there. Trump derangement syndrome is so real for them. It's stage 5, no cure, no therapeutic, no resolution. The other thing is, I learned everything about today's Democratic Party from the Democrats themselves. And people in focus groups call them out on it. They've lost a lot of union members, a lot of Catholics, a lot of rank and file folks, because all those people burning down their cities, that hurt the working men and working women. This is not going to work. Big, beautiful bill, all this stuff. In addition to the inflation and migration, the big issue in the last election was fairness over wokeness. And people say not fair to have plumbers and pipe fitters pay for student loans, doctors and lawyers student loans, not fair to have boys and women's sports, not fair to have 10 million people come here illegally, and then we see them get clothes and cell phones in your kid's seat in a New York City classroom. The Democrats are the ones who allowed men to penetrate the waters of women's pools as they held official positions. And they're not going to be able to impact that. I think the Democratic nominee is going to be someone no one's thinking about. It's going to have to be a total outsider. They'll probably be unsuccessful, but they will be different. It won't be anybody who was involved in this nonsense.
Yeah, you know, Dana, I think that Trump broke the Democratic Party because they thought so much about him, they stopped thinking about other issues.
Yeah, and I think Rahm Emanuel is hitting on that, but also he had the benefit of being away. Right?
Yeah.
And being in Japan, and he was like working every day as an ambassador. He comes back, he's like, what has happened to this party? But I think that there's going to be some backlash against these moderating Democrats from the left flank, because they're not for any of this, and that's where the energy in the party is. I also think that a lot of this continued fallout for the Democrats comes from short-circuiting their primary by going back to Biden, right? The original sin, or however you want to call it, like their decision to have him run again and then only back out after it was quite obvious that he couldn't do it anymore. That is going to hurt them. Plus, unwoking themselves. Pete Buttigieg and Kamala Harris both signed questionnaires calling for taxpayer-funded trans surgeries for detained illegal immigrants. Okay?
That checks every box.
So, like, how are you going to say, oh, wait, I'm not for that anymore? You signed the questionnaire. This was your policy position. The last thing I would say is they pick the dumbest things to fight on, right? So work requirements for able-bodied people are popular. That's something that's popular. If you talk about middle-class tax cuts, also very popular. But if they just say to everything, Trump bad, Trump bad, it sounds like cavemen, and nobody wants a caveman to be president.
Jesse, I saw you.
Is there a caveman running for president?
Yes.
I'm intrigued.
Yes.
So it's not going to be easy to pivot back to the center, because they said this was the civil rights issue of our lifetime. Like, they changed the English language, they changed bathrooms, they changed everything. And if you didn't go along with it, you were an intolerant barbarian.
Exactly.
So they lose one election and they're like, never mind. Like, no, you can't do that. That would be like if you're running on abolishing slavery, you lose one election when abolishing slavery is on the ballot. You're like, we're going to drop it. It's not working out. You can't do that. Dana, and you're right, all the activists are so dead set. The professors, the media, the whole party, you can't just take that issue away from them and act like it's no big deal. They're going to go berserk.
Yeah.
You think Elon and Donald Trump are going to make up?
I hope so. But I'm not counting on it right now.
The Democrats still want health care for illegals, like they all said and raised their hand in the 2019 debate,
Right.
period.
All right.
We shall see.
Rahm was ambassador to Japan.
Yeah.
That's such a
Yes.
great job. I want that job because then I'd be tall.
It's George Glass now.
I thought you were going to say you could eat a lot of sushi.
I don't like fish, but I would be tall.
Go to another country.
Yes. Simone Biles flips out on Riley Gaines while standing up for dudes in tards.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.